The birth of a tyrant. In the twilight of the Roman Republic, when power was shifting from Senate to emperor and civil wars were shaking the empire's foundations, a child was born in Idumea, a land south of Judea. His name was Herod, son of Antipater the Idumean. The world knew little of him then, but he would rise to wield immense power. And he would be feared. Born around 73 BC, Herod was not a Jew by blood but by forced conversion, his family being Idumean, descendants of Edom. The Jews of Jerusalem always looked upon Herod with suspicion, for he was not one of them. Yet Herod was cunning, and his rise to power would be marked by political manipulation, Roman alliance, and the shedding of much blood. Chapter 1. Rome's Pawn. Herod's father, Antipater, had allied with Rome during turbulent times. When Julius Caesar defeated Pompey and seized power, Antipater supported Caesar, who rewarded him by making him procurator of Judea. Herod, in turn, was appointed governor of Galilee at just 25 years old. He swiftly proved himself by crushing bandits and rebels with ruthless efficiency. The Sanhedrin, the Jewish ruling council, summoned Herod for trial. But instead of arriving humbly, he came in royal robes with an armed guard. He stood before the court, not as a man on trial, but as a king in waiting. The council dared not convict him. They feared him. Then, in 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated. Rome was thrown into chaos, but Herod, ever adaptable, switched allegiance to the rising powers. Mark Antony and Octavian. He played politics masterfully. When his father was poisoned, Herod avenged him with brutal precision. By 40 BC, Rome crowned Herod King of the Jews, a title laden with irony and resentment, for most Jews did not want him. But to sit on the throne, Herod would have to fight. Chapter 2. Blood for a crown. Judea was not his for the taking. Jerusalem resisted. The people favored the Hasmonean dynasty. The priestly rulers descended from the Maccabees. Herod had to fight a 3-year war to claim what Rome had given him. In 37 BC, he finally stormed Jerusalem. Blood ran in the streets. Herod purged the Sanhedrin, executing 45 of its members. He secured his rule with terror. He married Miriam, a Hasmonean princess, not out of love but to tie himself to the dynasty he was replacing. He made himself both a foreign king and a dynastic heir. Yet Herod's insecurity gnawed at him. Despite his glory, he feared betrayal. Chapter 3. The Palace of Paranoia. As king, Herod poured wealth into grand projects. He built cities, fortresses, and the magnificent port of Caesarea. He began the rebuilding of the Second Temple, transforming it into a wonder of the ancient world. He sought glory Roman and Jewish, but he also built prisons, execution pits, and dungeons beneath his palaces. Herod's court became a den of suspicion. His wife Miriam bore him children, but Herod could never silence the voices that said she would betray him. He ordered her execution. Then, years later, he killed their sons too. It was said that Herod murdered anyone who stood too close to his throne. Brothers, uncles, wives, sons, none were safe. Even Caesar Augustus reportedly said it is better to be Herod's pig than his son. Chapter 4. The Magi and the Murder. In the final years of his reign, Herod's body was racked with disease, his mind tortured by paranoia. And then strange men arrived from the east. Wise men. Magi. They came to Jerusalem seeking a newborn king. Where is he who has been born king of the Jews? They asked. We have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. Herod was disturbed. Another king? Born in his kingdom? No. He summoned the priests and scribes. Where was the Messiah to be born? Bethlehem, they said. Herod hid his rage. He called the Magi in secret. When you find him, he said sweetly, bring me word so I too may worship him. But the Magi never returned. Furious, Herod ordered one of the darkest acts in biblical history. He sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or under. Matthew 2 verse 16. The cries of mothers echoed through the hills. The land was stained with innocent blood. And yet the child escaped. Warned by an angel, Joseph had taken Mary and the baby Jesus to Egypt. Herod's wrath was in vain. Chapter 5. The King's Last Breath. Herod's final days were consumed by sickness and despair. According to Josephus, he suffered from gangrene, convulsions, and madness. His body decayed, but his fear of being forgotten endured. Knowing he was hated, Herod devised one final horror. He ordered the arrest of dozens of prominent Jews. Upon his death, they were to be executed so that the nation would mourn. But when Herod died, around 4 BC, the prisoners were released. The nation celebrated instead. He was buried in a grand tomb at Herodium, a fortress palace he had built for himself on a man-made mountain. His kingdom was divided. His legacy, infamy. Epilogue: The shadow of Herod. Herod the Great is remembered not just as a builder, but as a butcher. He constructed cities, temples, palaces, but also dungeons, gallows, and graves. He ruled by fear, loved by Rome, hated by his people. He sought to kill the Messiah, but could not. The child survived, and with him, a kingdom not of this world. Herod's crown turned to dust. His legacy was left in stone ruins and in the memory of his madness. But the child born in Bethlehem would rise, not as a tyrant, but as a savior. And so, the story of Herod is not just the tale of a king, it is a mirror of the human heart that when obsessed with power will stop at nothing, even the murder of innocents. Herod built empires. Jesus built eternity. One is buried. The other reigns forever.